Hello, everyone. I am the host of Real Talk with Karia Christopher. Our conversations will be intent, focused, inspiring, and yes, eye-opening. Join us as we bring to you Real Talk 2020. Sit back and relax as we get ready for a new episode of Real Talk with Karia Christopher right now, proudly powered by Flow. Hello and welcome to Real Talk with Karia Christopher, another dynamic conversation coming to your bedrooms, your living rooms, wherever the sound of my voice. As per usual, we are bringing you wonderful, dynamic conversations, intimate conversations for Real Talk with Karia Christopher 2020. Today, this name is a household name in the BVI and perhaps in the Caribbean region. But how many of you really know who this man is? It's my pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure and delight to welcome Mr. Shan Mohamed to my show. Welcome, Shan.
Thank you, Kira. My pleasure.
I don't know how I got him here. God is so good. I don't know that he does a lot of interviews, but Shan is my friend and I can publicly say that. And some of the things that I know about him, I don't think that the world knows. Many of persons who are seeing this now know you to be the insurance man, know you to be the Guyanese man with a lot of money. How does that feel for you when we say the Guyanese man with a lot of money and the insurance man? Are those fair assessment?
I don't think so.
Tell me why.
To be honest with you, I certainly don't have that perception of myself as somebody with money. What I know is that I have worked extremely hard. I understand what it is to build from scratch. So if I hear some of those talks, I just simply ignore it. I don't let that distract me, and I stay focused on the things that I want to do.
So you find that people having a conversation with your name and wealth would be an insult?
I wouldn't say so, but I mean, to be honest with you, very few persons would have conversation with me and have those two words in the same sentences.
Okay.
So people generally don't bring it up. You hear some of those ramblings
Yeah,
outside,
yeah.
but not in conversations with the people that I know.
Okay. So talk to us about who Shan Mohamed is. We only know what we see at face value. I think that you have done a masterful job of creating a brand for yourself. You have a look, but people don't really know your story. Who is Shan Mohamed?
I would say to you that I come from very, very humble beginnings. My parents and I have lived in a rental apartment until I left Guyana for the first time, and when I was 26 years old. And that was the first time I flew out to Guyana, and I went to St. Martin for an interview. I started to work at 17 plus, and I didn't even know the process how to go and get this job. So I was just walking down the road and stopping at various companies. And one of them happened to be an insurance company. They told me to send my resume in. And I didn't even type it. I wrote it. That primitive, and I took it in.
He said that primitive.
And I went to the company and I got the job in an accounting department. But from very early, as soon as I started, I heard about these insurance professional exams. So I started to make inquiries and so forth. And so even at that point, I wanted to be the manager. So I'm trying to figure out what I need to do to get these exams. And just to get a little bit of a background, in my first 6 months, I forced the company to promote me.
You said you forced the company.
Yes.
Tell us how.
When I joined the company, a little bit after, most of the experienced staff had resigned and moved on. So when the company issued revised job descriptions, they accidentally left on my own senior clerk. So I kept it and I figured I would have use for this. And then eventually I went to them and said, well, I'm doing this work. Why am I not being paid? And they said, well, why do you think you should be the senior clerk? Well, I have the job description that says senior clerk. And I managed to get all the frontline people promoted with me. And after that, I wrote my first 2 exams, which wasn't easy, by the way, because I couldn't afford to buy the textbooks. In those days, you were writing exams with expired textbooks.
Right.
I mean, some of the sample questions, you couldn't find the answers in the book.
Because they're outdated.
Old,
yeah.
Pass mark is 70%. And the first 2 exams I wrote, I got 72 and 74. But it didn't really matter to me. I passed the exams. And then I moved to another insurance company. And there too, I had good experience. And I continued to study. And then I moved to another company maybe 2 years later as a junior supervisor. And then I got promoted to senior supervisor and then I left. But, you know, the desire for wanting more than I had in my lifetime was so great. And I think it's the passion. And I like to tell people, you know, it's daring to dream. And if you want something bad enough, I think you can almost win it. So, you know, and then in 1998, I remember getting a call to my general manager's office, you know, and he said, you know, we're making your position redundant. And that was a defining moment. And that was around February. And then that was a shock to me because, you know, I was studying, doing quite well, so I didn't really understand what transpired. Gave me a story that never made sense to me, to be honest. And then I got Najiko's address from somebody. And I wrote, and they asked me to come down for an interview. I spoke to the now chairman, Mr. Amjad, and he says, well, we're going to invite you down for an interview. If we decide to give you the job, we'll reimburse you the expenses. I have to tell you, when you work for Guyana dollars, buying a ticket to go to Marathon isn't exactly cheap.
I understand, yeah.
So I went up, and I can tell to me that they did some background checks, and they said they were going to offer me a job. But I was so homesick. I mean, the food was so different, and I struggled. And it was very, very difficult to the point that I asked them I pleaded with them for me to return home.
Back to Guyana.
Whilst the work permit was being processed, you know. So I went back. Then 2 months after, I got shot by accident. So my right arm shattered, the bone was shattered, my upper arm. And it just won't heal. It won't heal. I don't have any job now. And for months, they put their hand in cast, it won't heal. And then they tell me I'd have to do bone grafting. So I had a car, so I sold the car to pay for the expenses. And to make, you know, in between, the BVI Labor Department had turned down the work permit. So Najiko had to re-advertise more specifically for an insurance person. And I'm very grateful that my chairman, I don't know what he saw, but whatever he saw, he didn't give up on the work permit application process. And so I came to BVI
So you
1
ended
week
up
after
here
surgery.
with a little bit of money in your pocket.
$1,250 to be exact.
So we heard this journey, which I knew a little bit about, not a lot. But we heard a journey of very humble beginnings, having been laid redundant. I never knew about the being shot. He's a gangster behind there, we didn't even know.
I know what it is to feel pain.
And so you know exactly, you know what it is to feel pain. So you're here. The BVI is now your home. You've made an incredibly good life out of being here. I would be a supporter in the fact and saying, I don't know that I've met a lot of people with your work ethics. What do you say to the critics who say that you're driven too much and want a takeover of many BVI businesses?
No, it's a nonsense, for lack of a better word.
Tell me why.
But I mean, to be honest with you...
Is that a fair assessment?
No, definitely not. Okay. I believe that each of us we all have opportunities before us, we all have desires, and we all have goals. I mean, what we tell people every year is set goals and put together an action plan to try and achieve it. So I see my case as no different. I have very specific goals, I said. And if I go back from my early days, I say to you, when I came to the BVI, I didn't have one foot in and 1 foot out. I had decided this is it. It's make or break. And I think because I had decided that I was going to stay from the start, it was easy for me to settle. You know how difficult, or you may know how difficult it is to travel in a Guyana passport. When my 2 children were born, they were born here. We could have taken them to the U.S. so they have a U.S. passport, but I wanted them to have a BVI passport so that they don't have the challenges that I faced when I arrived, for example, doing businesses and so forth.
So in terms of having your children orchestrated to be born here, while most of us BVI lenders have our children born in the U.S., you talked about you wanted them not to have the struggle that you had in terms of having a business here. Is it fair to say that you did have a struggle? Do you feel that you had a struggle?
It's not easy for an expatriate to get a trade license.
Talk to me. Talk to us. Pretending I don't have that hat on. In the way that most of us will not understand, because believe it or not, persons sit and they watch you and they feel like, oh, all of these expatriates coming in here to the BVI and taking over all of these businesses, and poor BVI landlords don't have a prayer. What has been your experience and honesty?
In my early days, the trade department would not issue a trade license to an expatriate. And I remember once applying for a pest control license. And I think it took over 4+ years. I had forgotten completely I applied for it. So when it was approved, it was a surprise. But, you know, I knew that one, if you wanted to work at a particular place, you need to get a work permit. And it wasn't easy to move from job to job in the BVI. Getting a trade license would be difficult. So I haven't thought about all of that very early in my career in the BVI and journey. I decided, no, let my children born here. I mean, of course, I didn't know that the UK would have Brexit, of course. You know, I thought it'd be a wonderful opportunity here, and they had the options, of course, of Europe, UK and Europe. So that to me demonstrates my commitment to BVI. I said to people that, you know, this is where I make my money. This is where I've been given the opportunity. My loyalty is to BVI, and I'm not saying it for the sake of saying it.
Right.
I have no property in Guyana, for example.
Listen, stop right there. The person that preceded you last week spoke just about that. And I want to get your honest perspective on that, because from a BVI lander perspective, and I hate to pit BVI lander against other nations or nationality, but for what it is now, you have agreed and established that, yes, life has been very good, but it was a process.
Very much so.
And I think you've outlined the process fairly well, where we can understand that Shan really didn't want into money. He kind of earned his way into that.
Not by a long shot.
We have persons who, let's say one, feel like, as a Guyanese national, first of all, how do you feel, answer that afterwards, that I still refer to you as a Guyanese national? Many Guyanese, we have a lot of Guyanese here, perhaps will feel that you are in debt to them to pave the way for them to make it here in Abiva. Is there any pressure on that?
I've never really experienced it. I mean,
really?
There are some instances where people come to you and they expect that because, you know, it's a fellow Guyanese that I will bend backwards to make it happen. But no, I sort of evaluate everything that comes before me, and if it makes sense or if it aligns with the company's goals and objectives, yes. But if it's not, I won't, and nobody's really put me under that kind of pressure.
Why do you feel that I can guarantee that you're in the minority? You have said just now, and I'm so happy you said that, your properties are here, your house is here. But somebody else who would be in the same position where you've made a BVI your home feels, and they've said it on the very same show, that yes, I am here, I live here, but they can take away my belonging at any time. And I feel as if this is my home. My home is in Guyana, if we're talking about you, and I should be able to almost prove to Guyana that I've made it and I can build a house, so I should build a house at home. What's your perspective on that? With many expats who live here, we do have a majority of expats, and they invest almost everything back in their original home.
I don't have that ego. I feel I have nothing to prove, to be honest with you. I travel to Guyana every so often, but it would be maybe in 3-year span. And when I go, I spend about a week. I think once I spent 3 weeks with the family during Christmas time. But I mean, you know, I've gotten accustomed to BVI, the food, and I also travel to other parts of the world. So I don't have an overwhelming desire. And it's not that I'm not, you know, I am a Guyanese. Nothing will change that. I don't intend to try and say anything different either. If I can help anybody, I'll do the best that I can. But I don't feel that I have, you know, a sense that I have to do something because I'm a Guyanese responding to somebody else from Guyana request. It has to make sense to me.
How do you feel about persons who have made the BVI their home 20, 30 plus years, are considered a belonger for all intents purposes in politics, running for office here in the BVI. Is that something that we should entertain here in the BVI?
I have to be honest with you. To me, I would say that let the indigenous BVI and they make that choice. I understand the politics where people feel a need to protect their own, and I think that every country has a duty to do that. What I don't believe necessarily, though, that any country should perhaps go out of the way, because you can only protect for so long, and that there will come a time when if you don't teach people how to fish, they simply won't know how to fish, and they won't even know how to respond to competition. And with globalization and so forth, and if you look at like a lot of businesses in the BVI, for one reason or another, BVI landers now are competing with expat type companies in similar type industries. I believe that I don't really care who does the same business as I do. I just believe I'll do it better. And I have that belief that I can do it better. And I followed that. That's been my mode of thought and my way of operation.
When you hear the name Shan Mohamed, because I listened to you speak, you talk about your journey, you're very confident. You have a vision and a purpose for what you're doing. Sometimes persons may mistake your confidence with cockiness, with arrogance. How does that make you feel?
Doesn't bother me the least, to be
It
honest
does
with
not.
you. Oh. I believe that every successful person has some degree of arrogance.
Really?
But you must be able to control it. You have to control it. No, but you know, I tend to get a little bit more impatient now. You know, I want things, when I want something done, I want it done fast. And why shouldn't it happen if there's no just reasons for it not happening? I don't feel that kind of pressure. And I go back and say to you that having lived here for 21 years, I have never really been made to feel as an outsider per se. Some persons will make some comments here and there, but it's never been the majority. And a lot of the Nagico clients, for example, are in fact BVI landers, Caribbean people. And we're not getting some, you know, now we're building the European type clientele, right? But we've had great support.
Nagico, that has been a staple in BVI mouths from 2017, mostly because of Hurricane Irma and Maria. Nagico took a lot of blows. You, as the face of Nagico, took a lot of blows, continue to take a lot of blows. Was that warranted? Was it justified?
I would say that we are not now taking any blows.
Okay.
We were very unfortunate after the storm to have some employees of other companies in the same industry came out early and said Nagico is bankrupt. And that I felt placed Nagico under undue pressure because people started to panic. It was very difficult in the initial period. I have never been through a hurricane, to be honest with you.
Most of us have not.
And something of this magnitude, it is frightening. On top of that, our main office lost one floor, and St. Martin, as you know, was substantially devastated, then Anguilla, then Dominica from Hurricane Maria. So it was tough. But what I would say is Nagico had faith in our BVI office and allow us the autonomy to settle these claims. I mean, I hear the noise, some of it. There's some cases I know where I felt that justice didn't handle it properly. So I would admit to that, and it's something for us to learn from, and what do we do going forward. But if you consider a company with 6,000 claims, and there have been about, I don't know, 46, 47 complaints, and when you do the percentage, it's not even 1% of claims. So I think everything was blown out of proportion. Nagico insures some of the largest property risk in the BVI. The big question is how many have stayed with Nagico? And I said
That's my next question.
We've retained 90% of all the large accounts.
90% of the large accounts. So that speaks to exactly some of the concerns that I thought that people had. Nagico is good for the big names. Nagico is good for those big companies, but they're not a little man kind of person. Shan Mohamed, who is a manager, does not hang out with the little man on the street. He's always with the upper echelons. That's what we see.
Actually,
Is
that's
it
another
true?
misconception. I
Well,
mean,
good. This is
I
why we're
have,
here.
you know, I've say in the 21 years, I've made some, I've developed good relationships. And, but in terms of what I would say very personal friend, I have very few. I like James Harris, I like Gordon French, Doyle Nelsia, and Vance Lewis. That's probably the four persons in BVR that's closest to me. I have a lot of respect for Mr. Peter Haycraft, who to me, you know, I've had good conversations and I see him, to be honest with you, I admire what he has accomplished. What I like about the BVI as well is this is a place where very ordinary people can come and do extraordinary things. It has, you know, I sometimes describe BVI as almost like a little bit of the Wild West. You know, we're at that point where we're at that tipping point now for greatness. And if we position ourselves right, and we can do so many things. And I think that's what I focus on. I don't want to get involved in anything too fancy. Pure common sense. I like businesses where people want service. And if you offer quality service and at a sensible price, people will come to you. But going back to the only point, I want to say to you that not only did we retain 90% of our large clients, but Nagico itself has grown last year. The Nagico Group has written about $208 million US as a group.
Oh.
So despite all the noise you hear and all the stuff, Nagico grew from about 180 million to 208.
I will say that you can be credited or partially credited with stepping up the game of a lot of competition. We can touch on Nagico. You are a force to be reckoned with. Previously, you know, you would have one particular insurance company that will be really ahead of the game, comfortably so. And we do have some other small ones, and I'm shaking in my chair, which I should not be. But since you've come in the game, there's stiff competition. We can talk about tag. I think that has been explosive within the British Virgin Islands. You do have some connection to tag. And what I understand from you and your company is you wanted the buying experience to be an experience.
Yeah, I'm a director at TAG. And it was the right timing.
How do you think, though, it was the right timing, obviously, because you're doing great along with the other directors who are part of the whole journey.
Yes.
Patty, my friend, etc., those Romney girls. But you have gained a lot of enemies in that space because you have now forced persons in the industry to really up the game. Is it worth the show and tell and the dollar signs behind your name versus a good night's sleep? Is it a fair assessment?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't want to sleep my life away. That's how I see it, and I believe, you know, there's a time for work, a time for playing.
So this is the time now for...
I have 2 more years. I've given myself 2 more years. This year, next year, for possible new ventures. But tag to me is special. And I'm glad that Patty and I, we sort of joined forces at the right time. And when you think about it, you travel to all parts, Miami and other places, they're showroom. Why should you have to go on a lot, walk a lot, in the hot sun and nobody there to you don't have the right facilities. I think that we are a trendsetter and we have laid the ground for others to follow.
We as in tag or we as in Shan Mohamed extraordinaire?
Well, I said tag. It's never one person that is able to drive any organization. There's always a lot of people behind the scenes who contribute. And without their assistance as well, you can't achieve the end result. So why does it say Sean? I'll tell you, there's a lot of people behind me that helps and provide the guidance and assistance. But Nagico as well, I can say to you, when I came in 1998, November 1998, property insurance rates were high. Motor rates were high. The rates that people pay now, I would say without any fear of contradiction, Nagico is who contributed significantly to extremely competitive rates.
You know you're going to have people calling you and cussing you out now, you
They,
know.
they can sing it, but I'll tell you, I honestly believe that to be true. And if you look over the BVI rates have been lower than any other your neighboring islands.
Since Nagico came into play.
Well, since I came in 19 and Nagico allowed me to take an aggressive approach. Now, whilst we want to be competitive, we don't want to write bad business either. So we've been selective by and large as well, right? But we have made a real difference.
You keep using the word we, but when the public sees all of the touches that you've made, they still say Shan Mohamed.
I'm very fortunate.
So, but yet, I'm speaking to you and you're being very generous with the conglomerate that you have created and the people who have sourced the way and helped you, but the common denominator is still always Shan Mohamed.
I think leadership matters.
And so that's what I'm going to ask you. And so I ask you about persons mistaking your, maybe it's not a mistake, your need for success, your confidence with arrogance. And you say, well, that doesn't bother me. I'm fine with that. But yet, when I'm speaking to you now and we're inches from each other, I can hear some compassion in your voice. I can hear the need for persons to hear your story with an open ear. Is that a correct assessment?
I mean, I'm glad that you've given me the opportunity to share some personal details that people won't necessarily know. But to be honest with you, Kira, if I sit down and I dwell on what people want me to do and how they want me to think, I will never get any place.
That is true.
There are roadblocks. Everywhere you turn, there's a roadblock, and then you get past, there's another one. And if you allow those things to distract you, you just can't, you won't achieve your own personal goals. And then the question is, and not by any means do I have enough, but what is enough? Nobody can really define what's enough.
Good point. What's a wonderful segue. He said, what is enough? And I was going to ask you, if you remember the conversation you and I had a few weeks ago, and I like your style. I think that you're a shrewd businessman. If you want to learn how to get your business to a next level, you are certainly somebody to look at and to pick your brain to see what's going on. But you said something to me that I'll never forget. Because I said to you, well, Shan, you know, real talk is one of my loves. And I don't know how to make money if I don't love it. So all of my ventures that I have been in are almost just a labor of love. I'm far from rich. All of this, I need to have sponsors to be in, even to be in this space. And I think everybody would love to be in a space where you control your own destiny. I felt that I should be able to control my own destiny, still make a comfortable living, but do it out of love. And you said you have to learn to love, well, I think it's to learn to make money, love making money first, or something to that effect.
What I was saying to you is that if I look back at my early days, I never would want to do insurance. What I wanted to be is an economist. But I've learned to love it.
That's what you said.
And you can learn to love the things you do that bears fruit.
The majority of persons that I know, their mind is not wired like that. I have tried, I listened to what you say, I thought about it the night, and for me, it would be like almost, okay, well, Karia, you, let's say economist. I'm not an economist, but in the economy department, if you set up a business, you can make millions of dollars, but would I be happy? I don't know how could I be happy in a space where I have no interest in. A space like this where I get to speak to people like you and just have a beautiful conversation but make no money. I'm happy, but on an offset, I don't have a lot of money. So what would you tell to persons, younger people than me, persons in my space, who's struggling a little bit trying to find a way? Because everybody likes to be happy and do something that they love, but it doesn't make any sense if it's not profitable. How do you kind of balance that?
I mean, it's like I have a lot of chats with my Nagico team in particular. And I would say, and I talk to a lot of the younger people who are studying, and I say to them, well, and they tell me the subject area that they're studying. I say, well, when you finish, where are you going to work? And someone tell me, they're doing a bachelor's degree in accounting. And I said, well, you'll be a dime a dozen. I can hire, I can pick and choose who I want, and I don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money. So I would say that when you think about it, right, we're going to go through life, and we're going to have to do some things in life. We're going to want a family. We're going to want a house. We're going to want a car. We're going to need to put money aside for retirement. We're going to send our children to school. We got to put some money for some medical expenses, because if you have full cover, you just never know what might be excluded and so forth. So how are you going to pay for this? With love? Happiness?
He said with love or happiness. So you're saying think on the bigger picture. That's what you're basically saying.
You need to find something that helps you to accelerate your growth. Choosing the right field to study that is more marketable makes sense.
So not what you love. So if one of my children says, Mommy, I probably won't make a lot of money, but I love to teach. I want to teach. And I know, I definitely know, that teachers are probably the lowest paid profession, most needed profession, which is certainly not going to be rich. And I'm thinking, well, boo, I kind of need my pension for when I retire. If a teaching job, you perhaps will need to have something else. How do you tell that child that, Ariel or Dakota, yeah, you can love teaching, but teaching not going to pay the bills? Is that a fair thing to do?
I think, do you be honest with them? That's what it comes into. Would you tell them the truth? You're not forcing anybody to change from what they want to do,
Yeah.
But at least if they understand what are the possible outcomes by the decision they make, helps them to form an opinion. And then one thing I'll say to you is that I love the insurance business. I've been in this industry since 1989. So it's not a matter of whether or not I loved it. It would have never been my first choice when I started. I'm in the pest control business. Yeah, it's another service type business. So it comes down to sales again. Car business is sales again. So to be honest with you, it's not that you don't like it, but perhaps it's choosing something that can help you achieve your goals faster. Because at the end of the day, everything is getting more expensive. The cost of building a house 10 years versus the cost of building a house now, it's a lot of money. The banks are now tightening up, for example, on lending. You now have to come up with 20% down. So what are you going to do?
What do you think, if any, is enough to contribute back into a community that has helped you to get to this stage? What do you think is expected of you? Not what you've done, it's fine. What is expected of you fairly to say, but Shan came here with $1,250 in his pocket. He has a lot more than that now. This is the month. I expect him to give this back. Is that a fair thing that persons would have of you or persons like you?
I think even if people don't have that expectation, you ought to give back. And I would say that since in 1999, since I had access to Nagico advertising budget, I was just spending money towards BVI community projects. I think it's important you do. I don't want to pass through this life without feeling like I have left some footprints behind. It's important to me. I want to make sure that I have made a difference.
You, Shan Mohamed?
Yes. For me, that's very important. There's no point living life without leaving something behind where people can say, you have contributed, you've made a difference. For me, that's very important. And we practice that on a daily basis as much as we can. We help a lot of people.
Well, that's very good to hear. That is exceptional to hear. So you'll see Nagico name on the screen during or break or commercial break. Thank you for that. I want to ask you this question, and I'm zoning in on your face because I need to see and feel. The discussion for months has been about the 1,500 belongers that the government has approved. Lots of people have opinions, and that's what they are, opinions. What I want to talk to you about is a conversation I heard sitting down with some other expats. And I hate to use the word expats, but for the conversation, please forgive me if I'm offensive. Some folks had said, it's not fair that persons get a Bilanger, and this might be true or may not be true, I don't know, I do not know, that have been living here in the BVI for 10 years, and I've been here for 35 years, and I had to wait 35 years to get mine. No, I was shocked because it literally was pinning expat on expat, which I've never, ever, ever heard that ever. And I sat and I listened to conversation, and they were livid. And they felt like, no, I had to wait 35 years, and in some cases 40. How dare these people who just came here, and just came here for them would have been 10 or less years. And I know that it would have somebody that said, well, no, the government says it's 20 years. But let's be real. Some people perhaps are in that category. What's your opinion on that, considering that you had to climb your way there, and you talked about how difficult it was as a non-belanger to get businesses set up. And just so you know, he's speaking well before the current director of trade was there. Let's just put that out there. Yes. What's your thought on that? Because I thought it was such an interesting kind of thought on that.
I think people naturally will always feel that if somehow persons seems to have been able to benefit earlier than perhaps they should have, they'd always have an issue with that. I have no real opinion on it. It's a matter that I don't particularly care to get into. I hope that there is some economic benefit, that maybe these 1,500 persons who are now belongers will start up businesses, maybe buy cars, build homes, and so you'll see it trickling, trickling down to the rest of the economy. And if the powers that be decide that that's what they want to do, I mean, it is for the people to decide, and I suppose people who can vote, you can hold governments accountable for their actions, and to decide whether or not people felt it's fair or not. But nobody should be made to live in a country for 35 years and not be given some form of status. So I figured, to me, you've been hearing from previous governments all about, we're trying to regularize things and so forth. So I think that a lot of people actually felt perhaps not so hard done, that the people who were entitled to BVI status in fact got it. And there were people who we were shocked that you thought had status, didn't have status. So, maybe just step in the right direction in terms of regularizing the process.
This is why he's so well off, because he's a diplomat to the fullest. Question. Is it fair to say, because you did say in the opening statements that as this is your home, you love it here in the BVI. I thought you did a very good job of saying, this is where you want to invest. But you're Guyanese, you can't take that back.
No, I can't, and I don't want to.
Is it fair to say that the Guyanese national here in the BVI have a pretty complicated history when, in bulk, you hear about, the Guyanese like to drink. They're just drinkers and they're loud with the music. So you don't really hear a lot, and Guyanese people, please don't come for me, I'm just having a conversation.
Yeah.
You don't hear, Guyanese are great business people. You don't even hear that Guyanese have great roti or whatever they're known for. You hear, those Guyanese drink too much. And they drink until they're drunk. They're always on the ground, farlog drinking. Is that a fair assessment? And if it's not, what has caused that presumptuous, well-known tale here in the BVI?
I mean, my own thoughts are that when I came, that most of the Guyanese that resides in the BVI came from, not from Georgetown, which is the capital. They're more from the country type areas.
Okay.
And a lot of them are not necessarily skilled workers. I mean, sorry, there are more tradesmen, for example, and so forth. So to me, I haven't necessarily seen a lot of the professional Guyanese, the doctors, the lawyers, and so forth. But what I would say to you is that in any part of the world you go, you'll find Guyanese, and they are also considered very progressive people. You go to the States. I mean, we believe there are more Guyanese living out of Guyana than in Guyana.
Really?
Yeah, because Guyana is 83,000 square miles with a population of about 700,000 persons. So a lot of Guyanese outside, and a lot of very, very, very successful Guyanese. In fact, there are companies in Guyana that, by U.S. standards, you couldn't even get close to them. And there's no secret that Guyana now economy will transform and so forth with oil. You know, we hope that the politicians will do right, do the things that country to take care of the people. I've heard those things about drinking and so forth, but on the upside, perhaps we don't see it progress to criminal acts.
Okay.
We don't hear them getting arrested for disorderly behavior. It'll be the odd cases. So I don't think it's a real problem.
So you will just take the drunken Guyanese instead of the murdering Guyanese. You will take that.
Well, I don't even know. I mean, I don't tend to get together with the families and so forth, but I don't read anything in the news that's saying is that disorderly behaviors and so forth, you know. So
this diplomatic Mr. Shan Mohamed, so in essence what he's saying is, I'm going to paraphrase, yes, there's the stereotype that Guyanese drink, but we don't kill nobody, we don't rape nobody, we don't do anything that typically causes you to be in jail or causes, you know, the murder rate or the crime rate in the BVI
or any
to
domestic
rise.
disturbances, because the police sends out an arrest blotter every week, and I tend to skim through it to see what's like.
And you ain't seeing no Guyanese name in there.
I just see, I mean, on rare cases, you know.
So don't come for any Guyanese. Okay, I hear you.
But they work hard, and if given the opportunity, like I mean, at the end of the day, people are still people, no matter where you come from.
Understood.
Yeah, you're good and you're bad.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. So let's be. The show's almost done. Believe it or not, the hour's almost there. I got 10 more minutes. I'm telling you. But I want to take us back to, and I was going to ask that question, so I'm so happy you brought it up. Guyana now appears to have an insurgence of wealth coming through. You've always been known for bauxite and oil, but something happened where people are celebrating, maybe presumptuously celebrating, I don't know, about this newfound riches that Guyana is supposedly going to have. As a Guyanese national, a shrewd businessman, someone who has admitted that you don't have to love a space to be able to make money. Someone who has also said that, you know, I love business. The numbers are important. If an opportunity presents itself in your homeland of Guyana to increase your fortune in ways that you never expected, would you take that?
I certainly would entertain it if I have the right partners, because it's very difficult to manage a business from across the waters. I mean, people will say technology and so forth, but experiences have taught me that when you're not there to make sure the processes are followed and so forth, you can lose your money. I want to enjoy life a bit rather than just work. For a time, it was okay. For the first time this year, I have starting to feel like I want to not be doing this every day. And that's a little bit surprising. Maybe some work stress related, right? But what makes me happy now is my chickens at home, my 100+ chickens I told you I have that lays eggs.
Yeah.
I have a fish pond, you know, Miss Dashy, which was kind enough to give me some tilapia fish. I reckon I have about 1,000 fish in my pond.
Really?
And I have a lot of fruit trees and my gardening. So, you know, today it was really hard leaving home.
I appreciate you coming in your shop. I appreciate you coming here on this Saturday morning.
And I find more and more every morning. If I get a chance to stay with the guys working, that's what I prefer, you know. So unless I have early morning meetings, I don't get out till about 9, 10. That's what I want to be doing as well. I also want to, you know, I have 2 children, and I am duty-bound to provide for them. And when I look at, let's say, you know, another 5, maybe between 5 to 10 years, my daughter coming back, for example, and I think, what is she coming back to? Which industry is she going to get in? I don't see no new companies necessarily setting up shop. The offshore industry seems to be uncertain. I think the marine side and tourism could be the mainstay, but what are they coming back to? So unless I build that foundation for them, it could be very troubling times. Or they would just have to go through life, like, you know, you get a job and you spend the rest of your life paying a mortgage and so forth and so forth. So I want to provide that. You know, my parents wasn't able to do that for me.
Do you think that there is something called overcompensation in terms of parenting skills? And I asked that
Mm,
question only because I try to have conversations where I learn as well. So I do, I think, have 5 more minutes based on
I can
the
answer
camera
that one very
guys.
quickly. I think that for a lot of parents who work excessively long hours, you will overcompensate. Whether consciously or unconsciously, you will. Because you're not going to subject your children to the same lifestyle you had, where you had very little there and you had to learn to make do. You want to try and do it, but it's difficult. You'll end up giving them because it's easier to give them. I hope that I can, I try to take Ariel to work for me from like 10 years old. And she doesn't want to do filing and so, but I wanted to understand that you don't reach to the top unless there is a process. I know she's going to come home in March and Prius and she's going to naturally go to work. So I'm trying the best as we can do, but we do overcompensate, I think.
Well, admittedly so, and I kind of feel almost a little bit of sorrow because it is a necessary evil. But if you work 12, 13 hours, I ask you all the time, how many hours do you sleep? And you was like, sleep, what's that? So when you say to me that you're getting a little tired and you see where you want to enjoy your fam and the things that you work hard for, the things that mean a lot to you, is it fair to say that you are at the pinnacle of your success where that if you had to stop today, I know that you are forever learning and growing, but if you had to stop today is February 1st, you'll probably not see the show for another 2 weeks, but today, is it fair to say that you can say in your mind, Shan Mohamed, you have done well?
The answer is no. I can't say
Wow.
that.
Wow.
I really don't believe that I have done enough.
Wow.
And it's that thought that keeps driving me to try and do a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. Because I really don't know when it's enough. I know you can make do with what you have, but I really don't know the answer to that question.
That makes me feel some kind of way. My time is up. But especially when you've outlined a whole journey to where you're at, and here I am, very happy, do not have enough money to retire today by far. Literally don't even have enough money to send 2 children to college, which I have to do right now. But I'm in a very good space in my life. I'm happy, I'm enjoying my life. And I would say that today, Kira, you have done good. You have done well. I can say that. And without the dollar signs and all of that. So it just shows you the different spaces that we are in life and we learn from each other. I do appreciate you coming here and giving us
You're
some
welcome.
insight on what you are. This is what I would call an intimate conversation with Karia Christopher. You have allowed us to pick your brain a little bit. You are appreciated. I really thank you for showing us a different side of you and speaking for a part of the community that is so vulnerable now, the expat community. But when I hear you speak, I literally will say this and I'll probably get in trouble. You should be the spokesperson for the expat community
No, you want me
because
to get shot.
no. Because based on the camera and based on the sincerity in your voice, I heard just gratitude and nothing else and no
I am. I
but.
truly am
And I
grateful.
really believe that you're sincere. So, Mr. Shan Mohamed, I would love to thank you for trusting in me to tell your story. I have a better and bigger appreciation for who you are as a total, as a man, as a husband, as a business person, and just the ordinary person on the street sitting down. You've done well in the community. I encourage you to continue to do what you do, be great, and move forward, and continue to give back. I want to leave you with the lasting words for your listening audience and something to help someone go forward in their journey and continue to strive for success.
I would say, dare to dream. Believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And I say to people, in the morning when I get ready for work, if I look in the mirror and I like what I see, there is nobody that can make me feel otherwise.
Wow,
So I
wow.
think it comes down to all you. Your best asset is yourself. So believe in yourself and give thought to how you want to reach where you plan to reach and stay the course. Don't deviate. Even if you fall and get up, dust up. If you need to ask for help, ask for help. A lot of people are afraid to ask help. A lot of people have good ideas for businesses, but I don't have the money and the resources. Be receptive to partnerships. It don't always work out perfect, but it will survive. At the end of the day, people will gravitate towards common objectives. Be open-minded and reach out.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are within the sound of my voice and Mr. Mohamed's voice. My name is Karia Christopher. It's been our usual pleasure to come to you from the Karia Christopher Studios, bringing to you Real Talk with Karia Christopher. It is my joy and my delight to give you great, stimulating conversation. So I want to thank you, Mr. Mohamed. I enjoyed this hour. And I think when you're speaking and people hear the passion in your voice, you'll encourage a lot of persons to step out of their comfort zone. You might encourage persons either to come also and say, hey, I heard you talking about partnership. Can you partner with me? And so you never know. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those persons within the sound of my voice, thank you for taking all the time out of your schedule to see me in your living rooms, in your bedrooms, in your cars, wherever you are. I'm very appreciative. This is Karia Christopher with Real Talk with Karia Christopher. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Real Talk is proudly powered by Flow, sponsored by James Tonman Construction and Nagico Insurances.